Hello and welcome to Odoo Live. My name is Noel, Community Manager here at Odoo San Francisco. Thank you once again for joining us. Joining me today we have Manendra, one of our business advisors, doing his last webinar of the year to talk about blanket orders and purchase tender agreements. Welcome once again, Manendra.
Thank you, Noel. Great to be here.
It's always a pleasure having you here, Manendra. As always, if you have any questions regarding today's topic, you can put them in the chat and we will answer them at the end during our Q&A session. Always, if you have additional questions or comments regarding today's webinars, you can always send us an email to webinar@odoo.com, or to get in touch with Manendra directly. Manendra, what is your email address?
My email address is mip@odoo.com.
All right. So with all that being said, go ahead and take it away, Manendra.
Definitely. So today, as Noel mentioned, we're going to be doing purchases and going over the procurement side of business and Odoo. Specifically, I will cover how to configure the system to make sure that it works. Create a product to basically use that product, and then show the procurement process. And through that, we will see how we can purchase new inventory and then receive it into our inventory, as well as go over purchase tenders and blanket orders. And then if time permits, we will look over drop shipping as well, because I know that's a big hot topic if you're doing e-commerce or if you're a distributor that sells on behalf of someone else. So let's get started. This is our normal dashboard that you'll see across any database. Now, I've only downloaded the very important ones. This database I used for an inventory valuation demo just about a week ago. So a lot of the stuff is already set up, but we're going to go into our our purchases app here, and this is what it looks like. But something you have to note, actually, I'd like to touch upon is we're going to see pricing. So I want to just show that when you download the purchases app, and we're going to look at the monthly, which is $15. When you click on purchases, it has a technical dependency on our invoicing app. So you want to make sure that when you download this, it's going to give you a free trial. It's not going to be the one free app that you are able to use. And you also ideally should use inventory to basically store your items somewhere. But as you can see, you don't necessarily have to have inventory as an app on your database. But if I actually take out invoicing, you'll see that purchases is gone as well. So that's just something to note. Going back to our demo here, with purchases, you're going to see, and this is across the board on all of our apps. I just want to give you an overview just slightly, is that you're going to see the name of the module or app up in the top left corner, and then you're going to see your submenu items across the top here. So you can see from the purchase submenu item, you can view your RFQs, your purchase orders, your vendors, and products from just this one tab alone. Then you can look into your incoming products and see your vendor bills from your control tab, and then you can see your reporting based upon what we've purchased. So now we're going to look at our configuration, because that's our first. Excuse me. So when you first download the purchases app, you have to configure the system. So if you're going to use it with anything else, it has to be configured in certain ways. If you're going to use it just alone, you still have to configure it so that it works for you. So as you can see, we're going to look over purchase agreements later on. So I have to access that and activate it inside of our settings. You can also toggle between the purchase order approval for managers alone. So in our system, for your employees, you can have access rights. So if this is somebody that's on your buying team, they will still have to, they may be able to create a purchase order, but they will have to get it approved if you basically activate this. So we're not going to go ahead and, oh, and actually, just because I clicked on it, you have a minimum amount as well. So if you're doing large POs, you can actually have a minimum amount that needs to be approved. So anything below 5,000, it's not necessary, but and obviously this is a changeable amount. This could be $1,000 for whatever it is. It could be 20 if you want it to be. But we're not going to use that. So I'm just going to go ahead and click out of that. You can also do in our system, which I won't be covering today just because it's a little bit in depth, but three-way matching on purchases, receptions, and bills. So you only pay for the bills that you received goods for. And so we can, if you want to see more about that, please contact me directly, and then I can show you one-on-one. But here we're going to be able to access vendor price lists as well. So if you have various vendors that you buy from, and say you get a discount from that specific vendor, you can set that up by activating that specifically. Now here is where we would activate drop shipping as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and click that in, and now we're going to save this all. And as this is loading, basically procurement in Odoo is fairly simple. Fairly simple as a process. I wouldn't say fairly simple as a business operation, but inside of Odoo, it makes it very easy to use. In conjunction with inventory, you can do a lot with purchasing, to creating basically automatic POs if need be. So now that we've configured it, I'm going to go ahead and create a product. And notice how before I activated the purchase agreements and vendor price lists, these weren't there. Now that I've activated, now they're viewable. So now it's a whole new submenu item for the purchases app now. And it was the click of a button. But we can also access our products straight from the purchases app. And so for that, I'm going to go ahead and click here. And I have a few items that I've already added. However, we're just going to create a new one for the sake of this demo. So let's say we have new product, and it can be sold and it can be purchased. Now this basically means that we're telling the system that it can be sold. So if I click out of this, you'll notice that the sales tab will go away. If I click out of this, the purchases tab will go away. But you obviously, if you want to set up connections inside of the system, you don't want to click out of that, because this is how you will set up an automatic PO to run with your reordering rules and other stuff inside of the system. So we're going to go ahead and say this is a storable product, which will then add on a lot more of our smart buttons. Now, just a note on these smart buttons, these are quick links basically to other pieces of the system. So your purchases, obviously your purchases are how many units you've purchased of this specific item. And it links automatically to our purchases app. So if you didn't have the purchases app installed in your and you had your inventory installed, because products is a functionality of inventory, this quick button, smart button wouldn't appear. Same with our sold quantities, which is a link to our sales app. Actually, that's all we have here because I haven't downloaded other pieces of the system. But for example, if you had manufacturing, that would show up as well. So now we are going to say it's a storable product, and we're going to say a sales price of 15, and this cost price is not associated with your purchase price. They are two different things, unless you set up the way you are going to do your valuation of your inventory. And that's a whole nother conversation, so I'm not going to get into it. But this is merely your cost price as the person that is selling, meaning your business. Your purchase price is a different number and can be linked, but it not necessarily will be linked, depending on how you set it up. Anyway, moving on, we're going to go over to purchases. With this new product, we're going to say that we're going to sell to our, one of our vendors is Fender. And we're going to go ahead and create Fender, and we're going to say we want a minimal quantity of, let's say, 15. And so we're going to save and close. And so now this means that inside of our system, we have to get at least 15 orders in order to buy this specific item. Actually, you know what? For the sake of this, I'm going to go ahead and say this is 0. We don't need a minimal quantity. We just need to put a vendor there to create an automatic PO. So now that we've saved this in, we want to set up a reordering rule as well. Here specifically, we can go ahead and set up these reordering rules inside of our product. And as you can see, it will be a name. And one thing to note about our system is that any underline, bold underline in the system will give you a necessity to put something there, or it won't let you save it in. So for example, if I click out of this, it will, and I try and save it, it will go red. It just won't let me create the reordering rule. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put that back in. And now this is actually reordering rule number 1. And this is a new product, and this is for the specific new product. So, however, you can access this menu from other places in the system as well, and specifically the inventory app. But you can also access it through products, because we went from purchases to products, and now we're creating a new product. You can also pick which warehouse straight from this reordering rule, and pick the location where it will be stored. So here, specifically, we're going to say we want a minimum quantity of 15 and maybe a max quantity of 30. And now we're going to save it in, and now we have a reordering rule that has been set up with our new product. And as you can see, back in our products, we will see can be purchased. That actually should show up under that. So anyway, there it is. Okay, so now I will go through the process of actually creating an RFQ. So you can access that here, and you'll see that there are many others in our RFQ. And just as a note, when you create an RFQ, it's basically a draft purchase order, and you can basically say to skip the point of the request for quote. You can just confirm the order if you know the price, right? So we're going to add a line, and we're going to say we want to add the new product, and we want a quantity of 5, and everything else. And the unit price, we know the unit price. So if I put 0 here, it'll create an RFQ. But if I just put a unit price of maybe $15 each, right? It's going to automatically create the price, and then if I confirm order, it's a PO. And that's it. And it's just that simple. And ultimately, if you send by email here, what you're doing is creating we don't have an email actually. So I'm going to say info@fender.com. Right? And so now, because we have an email address set up, we can actually just send this RFQ if this is somebody that we don't work with often, right? But if it is somebody we work with often, we can, again, like I said, just confirm the order and send the PO. So now, just to show you the process of the RFQ though, I'm going to go ahead and send this, and notice that it gets logged here. So this is a feature of Odoo that's called the Discuss app, and that's a free app in the system, and it's all across our system. So on any record, you can either send a message from that specific record and email them through Odoo. So all the records are created here. So that's basically what I just did. I sent a message from Odoo saying I need an RFQ, and it links to this record specifically. And this is your reference number. Now you can log a note as well, which allows you to basically talk to not only log notes, but also have internal communication between you and your employees, or you and your colleagues. So when you log a note, you can basically hit the @ button, and it shows a live view of all of the people that are in my database. Right now, I only have Fender as a vendor, and so I can literally tag them and have their information here. But what's going to happen here is that if I tag, say for example, myself, but imagine somebody called John Doe was here, I could literally give a note to myself and then log the note, and what will happen is I'll have a chatter button here in my messages. And so that's a little side note, but just to give you a brief explanation as to what this is, it will log everything, so you have full traceability, full accountability of what's going on in your system at all times. So if somebody, for example, makes a mistake, you know where the mistake was on this product, because of this record keeping, and you know who made the mistake, moreover. You can also schedule activity, which is nice when you want reminders to do things. Basically, you could save this in and come back to it if it's not pressing. But I'm going to show you how to automate this process in just a second anyway, so you don't necessarily need to schedule activities for purchases. But some people like to do so. So now that we're here, we're going to go ahead and save this in, and now we can confirm the order. Like I said, I could have skipped this stuff entirely and just said I want to just confirm the order and then send the PO, which is the same thing. It would have just been confirmed order, send by mail, and then it would have sent a PO as opposed to an RFQ. However, now that we've confirmed the order, Odoo, this happened in Odoo 11 actually, but also in Odoo 12, we can receive products straight from the PO. So you can access that information from the PO itself, or you can access this information from the inventory application, whatever your preference is. Most times your warehouse guy is going to be with access to the inventory application, and he'll be the one who has a notification that says, okay, this is something you need to receive from PO number 13. For the sake of this demonstration, I'm just going to go ahead and receive the products. And now we have to validate that shipment. When you validate a shipment inside of Odoo, it basically either means you're receiving an order or you are sending out a delivery order. So in this case, what we're going to do is validate it. And mind you, also, this is ideally supposed to be a manual process, because when you get the inventory in, someone there should be counting what you received. So ideally what you're supposed to do is go ahead and click edit, and then change the done quantities by clicking on this button. And then we can say the done quantity is however many we have. So, however, if obviously we only ordered 5, right? So if you open the box and you know that you can count 5 easily, you just go ahead and validate it, and it will give you a validation error, not an error, a validation warning. But once you hit apply, it'll automatically calculate this for you. So now, when we go back to our products, we'll see that our new product, which is here, will have an on-hand quantity of 5 now. Now, to show you what our on-hand units are, obviously what we have in our inventory, right? But our forecasted units gives you a live view of what's promised as a sales order and what is coming in as a shipment, as a delivery receipt that we've ordered through our procurement process. So just to show you an idea of how that works, I'm going to click out of here and jump into our sales app very quickly, create a quick quotation and sell it to John Doe, for example, and say we want to sell our new product. And we're going to say we're going to sell 2 items here, okay? And we're going to save this in, and we're going to say that we've confirmed it. We can skip all the necessary points. I've set this up to be invoiced based upon delivered items and not on ordered items. So, wait, I'm sorry, opposite. I've set this up to create invoices based upon ordered items and not delivered items. So now when we go into our procurement, we're going to go ahead and say we're going to buy another few new products. So here we're going to buy from vendor, and we're going to say products. Where's the new product? There we go. And we're going to say we're going to buy, let's say 6. All right. So at the unit price of, I don't know, $5. Okay, so it automatically calculates for us. We're going to confirm this order as well. And I'm not going to receive the products yet to show you what that forecasted amount looks like now. So we're going to go to our new product. And notice that the forecasted unit amount is now showing what we have looked at based upon what we have on hand, based upon what we've promised as a sales order, and based upon what we've promised to buy, basically. So this gives you a live view, and notice also that here you have the 2 units that you've sold, and here are the 11 units that we've purchased so far, because we purchased the 5 initially and then the 6 afterward. So just to demonstrate, you have at all times a live view of what's going on here. Now, we have on hand 5 units at this point. So now I want to show you how our automatic POs work. So at this point, we don't have any POs that are that are open. Actually, that's not true. We do have one that's open, but we haven't confirmed this one yet, or we haven't actually received these products yet, which is fine. But the PO has been made already. So what I want to show you is we're going to create a new RFQ, and we're going to say we want the new product. And let's say that, and this time I'm going to set up I'm also going to buy one of the other items, which are one of these guitars, right? So let's just say we're going to search more, and we're going to do our Stratocaster Junior, okay? And this is going to be saved, which means it's an open RFQ, but it hasn't been sent out or nothing's happened here yet. And at this point, I want you to look at quantity amount, which is 1. Now, once this is open, and at this moment, you'll see what status it's in. This just means it's a draft PO. RFQ, for lack of a better term, in Odoo's terminology, an RFQ is a draft PO. As far as you're concerned, and most businesses are concerned, we just like to be fancy and give you a term that is, if you don't know the pricing when you're working with a new vendor. But for all intents and purposes, it's a draft PO. Now, that being said, we created a reordering rule on our new product at minimum 15. So right now we have 5 on hand with 11, with 6 more coming in and -2. So our forecasted unit amount is 9, right? What I want to do now is actually confirm our delivery receipts and delivery orders. So here, we're going to go back to our POs, and we're going to open up the last 2 that we just did. So here, we have a delivery receipt that we pulled in already, and we can check that here. It's already pulled in. We're going to go back to our POs, and we're going to go to the next one, which has not been received yet. So by the way, actually, before I click that, you can also, these 2 buttons are the same here, but this is the smart button that allows you to go to the exact same spot as this button does, as you can see. So now we're going to validate, we're going to apply, we received 9 in. Going to go back to our products and check our on-hand quantity, and it was just a moment ago, it was 5, now it's 11 because we just received those products. Now, one last thing we have to do to make it a full on-hand unit is to send out this delivery order, because we have not done that yet. And we're going to go ahead and validate. And when I validate a warehouse out, it's basically a delivery order. When I validate a warehouse in, it's a receipt order. So we're going to go ahead and apply. Now we've sent out 2 items. And now we're going to go back to our purchases, go to our products, and our on-hand unit is 9. Now, in order to create automatic POs, you will run the scheduler once a day. So you can set that up if you want to do it manually or if you want it to run periodically. Some people do it based upon however their procurement works. In our case, we're going to do it manually just to trigger the specific reordering rules that with the specific items that are on our POs. And a cool thing about Odoo is that if you have an open PO, what you're allowed to do is when you run the scheduler for maybe once a day, maybe once a week, whenever you do it, if you have an open PO or an open RFQ draft PO, it will aggregate all of those items from the vendor that you're buying it from. So it basically doesn't make multiple POs for you to send out 100 orders to the same vendor. And that's a really great thing I think about Odoo, that it does that because it makes your life and the buyer's life a lot easier. So back to this, we're at 15, we have 9 on hand. We're going to, and by the way, the scheduler is inside of inventory. So you wouldn't be able to do automatic POs unless you have inventory. So that's just something to note. And so inside of our inventory, we're going to run the scheduler. And so basically this tells you that the reordering rules will be triggered. And so we're going to run the scheduler. And now we're going to go back to our purchases and notice that we have the RFQ that we looked at initially. And we had that one product, and now it's gone up to the 22 because this is the amount that we've set as the reordering rule min, and that's how much it will order based upon what we have left out there. So we can, again, confirm this order, and it becomes a PO, and now what we can do is, depending on how you set this up, you can create vendor bills based upon ordered quantities or received quantities. Just depends how you set it up. So in this case, it's going to give us one extra step with receiving the products first because that's the way it's configured at this moment. But you can also set it up so that so it creates a vendor bill or gives you that option at least upon a successful PO. So once we receive these products, I'm going to go ahead and validate. I'm going to say, okay, those are done. And now we can go back to PO, and now you'll get the create bill. And so basically now you have to pay for what you ordered, right? A PO is a request for inventory. The bill that you actually have to pay is you paying them. So that in Odoo, that's what that means. When you create a bill, you're basically creating a journal entry and saying, I've sent the money to my vendor, and now I'm going to pay for this. So you can create the bill. And here you'll see that our accounts that were initially set with. So right now I have it set to the stock inner accounts because that's default in Odoo. You can set whatever account you want it to go to depending on what you're selling. So if you have a separate account for services or you have a separate account for, stock, you can set that up so that it automatically catches this when you create this bill through your inventory. There's a little tab for accounting. Something to note, you have to have the accounting app installed in order for this to be a functionality. Otherwise, this will just default to whatever it is, and it will be stored in the cloud that is Odoo. But you won't be able to access it, is the point. Now, you can add a vendor reference here, obviously. You can add the bill date based upon when you're sending it. You can set the bill due date. You can set the bank account even. This obviously has to be configured for your specific business, but it's doable. Then, once I save this in, it will create the record. As you can see, it will create a record of the record. And then once I validate it, now this is the actual reference in your accounting that will show you this specific bill for these items. And once you register the payment, what happens here is you can either do manual or checks, and we are paying $11.50 for this, and on 12/12, and this is our memo number. We're going to validate it, and now this is what will show up inside of our accounting system. So that is a simple flow from creating a order of a product and moving through inventory as well as accounting. At this time, I just want to pause and see if we have any questions. No questions currently? Perfect. Okay, cool. So let's jump into purchase agreements. So here we're going to go and access it from purchase agreements. Now, it's really easy to create purchase agreements in Odoo. I mean, it's basically like everything else. You just have the two create buttons. You can also import purchase agreements if you have them already. But basically, you'll hit create. You will see the purchase representative, and this is obviously either internal or external. You can associate this with a vendor and or a internal person, but you also have the choices between calling for a tender and calling for a blanket order. We'll do both in just a moment, but basically we'll say we're going to call for tender for vendor, and we have an agreement deadline of, I don't know, Friday, let's say, and we want to order on the 19th and a delivery date of the 4th of January, right? So this is a pretty quick tender. And so then we can add a line and then pretty much add not freight, actually, that's the wrong one. We could add basically anything we need, right? So we're going to go ahead and add the strat as well. And we can put the unit price and then basically send it out and confirm it. This is how simple it is to create a tender on Odoo. So now you have this reference for your tender agreement, and then you can go into your RFQs and orders and basically create when you get these responses back from your various vendors. Right now, I only have Fender in the mix, so they can, for example, say, okay, this unit price is going to be $10. The next, I don't know why I just jumped from there to there, but this unit price is going to be $15. And once you add this in, you save it, and you can either confirm the order or you can go back and create another one. But here, I mean, again, we only have one vendor, right? So let's just, for the sake of this, say we're going to use John for this one. We're going to add in that he's going to say we're going to give you 10 for this, which is the same as the last one, but I'm going to give you 10 for this and not as much as the last one. So obviously you'd want to take this one more so than Fender, right? So once we go here, we can go in and basically confirm John's order from here. Now we're going to receive our products, and this also functions in the same way that we just procured everything else, but we didn't do a tender agreement. We just did a simple purchase order. But as you can see, it's just an extra step to basically do the same thing. And now we're going to validate and apply and go back to our request for quotations. And then when we're done, we can just validate and we can close. Now I did this on purpose, specifically because it's going to give you an error if you don't close out or cancel your other RFQs. Because again, an RFQ is a draft PO in Odoo, right? So you'll have to go back and go into your RFQs and cancel the one that you didn't use. So we're going to go ahead and cancel this, and we're going to go back to now the tender. Now we'll be able to close it, and now you're good. We skipped a few steps because I obviously received our products before we've actually closed the tender, but you understand the point. It's simply that you're doing one more step, but you're aggregating all of your requests for tender. And it's as easy as doing it through our purchase agreements here. Now, let's do a blanket order, and it functions very much the same way. You're just going to do the same thing, but notice the difference here. When I click for call for tender, it's not a specific vendor. I don't necessarily have to have a vendor associated, but when I do a blanket order, I do have to have a vendor associated. So it's the same thing here. We're going to go ahead and add a line. We're going to say new product. I'm going to go ahead and use the same numbers here. Let's say 10 here and add a unit price of $10. Add a line. I'm going to use the strat. I'm going to do 15 of those. Leave that at units. And then we're going to do 15 of these. Now, you can save this in, and ultimately, after you understand the price, you just go ahead and click confirm, and it's the same thing. This is the price that you're looking for, obviously, and then, again, same process. You go in to create the RFQs, you ultimately create, it's associated with this specific purchase agreement and this source document, and then you can confirm the order and save it in, and create the bill. Actually, it's not going to create a bill because I didn't put an amount, but the process is the same as the point. And basically, just to validate, ideally it should have an amount of money, but because it's zero, it's not going to say paid anything. So that covers our procurement process. One last thing I want to show you is a drop shipping order. So we're going to go ahead and create this. And actually, I just have to check which one that I picked for drop shipping. I believe. So actually, I didn't pick it. So we're going to go ahead and edit this here. your routes inside of your inventory are super important inside of the system. And another thing to note, actually, since I'm on this point, is that Odoo is a platform, and it's referenced against 3 apps or modules. Number one is inventory. Number 2 is contacts, and number 3 is accounting. In no particular order, it just depends on what's more prevalent in your business. But if you're going to use Odoo effectively, accounting, inventory, and contacts are the 3 most referenced things. So these smart buttons reference some other piece inside of the system. And if you look at a record inside of accounting, you'll have many more smart buttons because accounting is involved in everything inside the system. Inventory has a good amount, and contacts has a good amount. So that being said, here your routes tell the inventory app how something is purchased, how a manufacturing order is created if manufacturing was installed in this database, how it should be recorded in your accounting system, and specifically how it moves in the system. So here, when I click buy, what I'm saying is I'm just buying this item from someone else, and I'm going to store it in my warehouse. If I say it's a buy and make to order, it basically means that I don't have it in stock. I might have the raw materials in stock, but I have to make it when somebody buys this specific item. If I click out of this and click on dropship, it says that I'm buying this material. I'm selling this material, but it's when somebody buys it, it will create a dropship order route. A dropship order route on our quote, and then it will automatically create a quote unquote PO for your vendor, who will then send it from themselves to your customer. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and we're going to click save. Now we're going to say in our sales, because obviously we have to show sales for a dropship order, we're going to go ahead and click John Doe, and we're going to say we want to add the new product. And notice now, actually, because we've already clicked dropship, it's not going to give us the route that we need to put here. There's an actually, let me just show you guys. So I'm just going to go ahead and save this in, and then we'll come back to it. So we're going to configure this and go to settings. And I believe it's here somewhere. It's an order-specific route that should show up right here. So if you want to be able to show how it's drop shipped inside of your quotes, this is where you would set that up. So you can configure that through this menu right there, but for the sake of this, we're just gonna go ahead and save this in, and it should show up now when we go back to our sales order. So we're gonna go back here, we're gonna go back to sales, and we're gonna look at our 7 for our new product at 15. And notice now we have that route here. So we're gonna look at this, and we're gonna go ahead and click on dropship. So this basically tells the system that we have to dropship this from John Doe to new product. And whoever the vendor is will be associated automatically based upon where we put in the purchase order. So if you remember, in the inventory, we had that purchase tab, and we had to associate a vendor with that. Just to confirm that we have that, I want to go ahead and just to make sure so that it works here. We do have vendor as our vendor, right? And notice that it automatically associated our 2 vendors that we bought from before as well, because we created purchase agreements. So Odoo is intuitive in that if you create a purchase agreement with a vendor, it will automatically create that record for you inside of the inventory record as well, under the blanket order. Now we're going to go ahead back to our sales, and we're going to go to sales order 7, and we're going to confirm this order. And now we're going to create this invoice, and what it should do ideally is we're going to invoice these lines. We're going to validate this. And it won't create a delivery item although it should. So I'm not sure what's happening here. Let me see here. Sales order should have one invoice. So I'll have to get back to you on this. But ultimately, a box should show up that says there's a delivery order here. And it should properly, I think it's because I haven't set up the address on my vendor, which is why it's not showing the actual movement. But basically, you'll see a PO button here that will allow you to click right into our into the dropship that order that you've created. Because procedurally speaking, inside of Odoo, what you're doing is buying from another company and skipping the part where you pull it into your own inventory and then send it out, and you're just creating a purchase order from that company and then having them send the product to your customer. And basically you can track that through that smart button that shows up here once you add the address to the vendor and your customer, which the customer has it, but the vendor doesn't, which is why it's not showing up. And yeah, that's, a basic view of procurement in Odoo. So at this time, are there any questions?
Looks like somebody has a clarification question, but I'm not sure.
Sure.
Is this process also supported, and can you please demo? But I'm not sure which.
I'm sorry. Is this
to which process is being referred? We'll give Cyver here a minute to clarify that for us. But
sure.
In the meantime, thank you, Manindra, for another wonderful presentation.
Of course.
Let's see. We wanted to thank you all for joining us as always. If you have any lingering questions, either regarding today's topic or other topics in general, you can always send us an email to webinars@odoo.com or to get in touch with Manindra directly. Manindra, what is your email address?
It is mip@odoo.com.
Great. Let's see. Also, before I forget, we are also in the era of Odoo tours. We are promoting Odoo version 12. So if you want to get any information regarding our tours and tour events to see which are the ones nearest you, you can always visit our website at odoo.com/tours. So let's see. It looks like we do have a few questions rolling in here at the end.
Right.
Manindra, do you have time to try and answer some of these?
Sure. So the first one I'm seeing is the blanket order process as described in my question. I saw the demo on blanket order, but did not show how to make subsequent call-offs as far as I could see. What do you mean by call-offs? If you could elaborate that, I could maybe answer that a little bit more in depth.
Yeah.
The other question is it possible to sell a product by MTO if a reordering rule is set? I'm sorry. So ideally, no, I don't think so, because made to order literally means that you're going to make it internally, right? But that also has some different ramifications in the system. So a made to order item could be manufactured good, or it could be just something that you buy when you what's the word here? When it's bought from you, right? So that means you could maybe use it as from made to order. You could be like, somebody buys it from you, and if it's a made to order item and you buy it from somebody else, then it'll create a PO, basically. But the reordering rule is more about your own inventory. So made to order literally means that you're not keeping it in inventory. You are going to build it when it's bought. So short answer is no, just because of the logic in Odoo. But if you have a specific use case, you can email me and I can, we can talk about it.
Yeah. I think that probably would be the best, also the best course of action for Cyber here.
Yeah.
Because if you get in touch with the manager, you can get a customized, one-on-one demonstration.
Right.
Walk you through anything that you need. I think that's then going to do it for us here from the offices at Odoo San Francisco. Manindra, is there anything you'd like to add before we head out?
My number, actually, if you want to call me, is 650-447-7570. My number here at the office. If you have any specific questions and would just like to chat about something that you're wondering about. And my email address, as you said before, is
you.
mip@odoo.com.
Great. Well, then, thank you all once again for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you found this video useful. We'll continue making these, of course, next year. And so, with all that being said, I think that's going to do it for us here. Thank you all for watching. We will see you all next time.